After making Earthlings, I started thinking about how the way we treat animals actually mirrors itself in how we treat one another. And that was really the genesis of Unity, this new film. In fact, there's a quote in Earthlings from Leo Tolstoy that says, "As long as there are slaughterhouses, there will be battlefields." And I think that's what Tolstoy was suggesting, that as long as there was a certain group, a certain expression of life that was considered inferior, that we could be apathetic about, even if that group was another species, it would mirror itself in humanity. It would cross over that perception. And I began researching and writing and trying to address this whole notion of perceptions. There is this strict dualism, and it seems to permeate everything in this world if you really think about it. Religion is set up, even involuntarily, from the standpoint of this is the truth, this is the sacred people, this is the sacred book, this is the sacred community, this is the ritual, this is the temple, this is the sacrament, what have you. Anything outside of that are not the people of God. Politics is certainly dualistic. Are you Democrat or Republican? Or are you this party or that party? Sports, athletics, business, we destroy each other in business. The whole way the world seems to operate is with this duality. If you look at the Old Testament, for instance, and you read this story of this Garden of Eden, there's a very interesting line that says that God walked with Adam in the cool of the day, which I always found fascinating because it seems to suggest that God and Adam are friends. There's no separation between God and man, in other words. And then Eve comes along, and they're both naked, and they don't notice that they're naked. No separation between man and woman. You have the lion and the lamb who lie down together without any ire. No separation between the carnivore and the herbivore. No separation between man and beast. Truly a garden of unity. And then there is this tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which seems to represent the tree of the exit. Because as soon as Adam and Eve partake of this fruit, they hide from God, they cover up their nakedness, the lion starts to eat the lamb, and the world as we know it begins. The duality begins. Now, every religion on earth is eager, almost groaning and moaning to get back to the peace that was had in the Garden of Eden, and yet they see opposites in one another. They think that their religion is true and that the others are false. And there is this separative nature, this duality. So all of this was going into the writing of Unity. And I thought, well, how can I put this together in some sort of film that illustrates not only how we treat each other as humans, but how we regard animals, how we regard nature and the environment, and how can we have this movie about unity. The film was divided into 4 parts. It's body, mind, heart, and soul. There's also a prologue and epilogue that serve as bookends of the film. And so I started thinking, how could I put together some sort of collage of images, really, and a certain sound, a certain kind of music, and certain words that would convey in 2 hours to the viewer this allegiance we have to our perceptions. It's almost as if we have a greater allegiance to our belief systems than we have to the existence of life. And this notion of expressions of life. This idea of regarding any expression of life as oneself, to see oneself in another creature, this is a real threshold for humanity, a true barrier, really. What is it in humanity that perceives opposites? I imagine that in order to get really into some higher attainment, higher level of consciousness, that we have to drop all this duality. But as long as we regard some expression of life, whatever shape it is, as indifferent, with apathy, then we are still dualistic. We're still operating from a dualistic state of mind. I suspect, I don't know this for a fact, but I suspect the only way to really get to heaven, to get to the next place, to move up in consciousness, is by no longer seeing opposites. Just looking around this world and seeing how multitudinous nature expresses itself. You know, you have mold and you have lions and tigers and lambs. This is what we say in the film. That nature's multitudinous in her expression, and so to think that this isn't important, this isn't important, this isn't important, only this is important over here. This is a dualistic perception. I don't know that we can raise our consciousness very far. As long as some expression of life is inferior